Hey everybody, wanted to run through on how to replace a camshaft position sensor. Sorry, it's a camshaft position solenoid valve. I got a code. It was I think P0024, and the P0024 is the camshaft position solenoid valve bank 2. There's 4 total of these sensors. There's the part number. Luckily all 4 of them are the same, so GM did something right there. Where they're located is on the valve head, just on top of the valve cover gasket. You see these 2, you get in here, you see these 2 right here. That's where they're located on the left side. Those are the bank 1, and then your bank 2s are located under here. See those 2 red clips right there? That's your bank 2. Both inside, closest to the center of the motor on either side, bank 1 and 2 is the intake, and then the outside is your exhaust. I'm going to go through on how to take this this cover off, and then I'm going to show you how to get to that bank 2 side, which seems to be in there pretty far. I don't necessarily know if you would have to take it off to get to the bank 1, but it would probably be easiest. On this cover you have three screws holding it in. You've got one located right here, one located right here on the left side, and then you have one located right back here. All of those are 10mm sockets. Beautiful thing about this, the whole thing will only use 10mm, and you will need a screwdriver, flathead, to undo your intake. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but that was a little loose. You got to take both of these bands loose right here, and you've got to take this band loose right here. Once you get all of those points undone, it pops right up pretty easy, and then you have to unclip this line that's located right, well, you can't really see it but once I get it undone, I'll pop it up so I can show y'all exactly what you need to do to get that line off of this cover. Alright guys, I've got all 3 bolts out and all 3 hose clamps are loose, so just go ahead and take them off. You also need to take off your oil cap. And then this guy right here, it's kind of a pain to put back on, but if you lift up, it'll come right off. You just have to help guide it back on whenever you go to set it back on. It's kind of a pain. Now what I was talking to you about earlier was this guy right here. So you want to push that clip in, and it pops right off, and then your whole cover lifts right up. There's your motor. Set this off to the side. So we've got another step. So there's your air intake, and here's your 2 on your bank 2. And this is the exhaust bank 2 right here. To get to it, we have to take this off. We have to take all 4 of these bolts off right here. Those are also number 10mm. Once you take those off, you just lay it off to the side and you can get right to it. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, we got all 4 bolts off, so we're going to take it and roll it over, set it off to the side. Now you've got two bolts, one holding the intake bank 2 and another one holding the intake bank, or the exhaust bank 2. It's a little tight in there. You cannot get a socket in there, so you need to use a wrench. I actually had to go to Lowe's and buy a 10mm wrench because everything was in my damn drawer except for my 10mm wrench. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and loosen this guy up right here, and after I get it loosened up, I'll pull it out and I'll show you how. Well, we'll go ahead and unclip it now. Just slide the, see how this one's all the way forward, just slide this out, pinch and give her a wiggle. Might actually have to use 2 hands. Nope, came off with one. So just give it a pinch and a wiggle and it'll come off. Tuck it back behind here because it's kind of stiff and it'll get in your way. All right, back to it. We've got our bolt off, and I want to let everybody know that everything is just hand tight. These right here are pretty hand snug. You don't have to wrench it down whenever you're putting it back on, but it's hand snug. I'm not entirely sure if they recommend using any kind of thread locker on there or anything, but I also wanted to point one thing out. You notice there's a bunch of wetness around right in here. And there's also some wetness around in here. I believe that's because this unit has an O-ring, and those O-rings are probably going bad. So it looks like I'll probably have to be replacing the other 3 shortly, but I needed this one to go ahead and be replaced now because I will be going on a pretty long trip from South Carolina to Oklahoma, and I didn't want this to be an issue, so give it some. Seems like it's a little bit snug to get out, but just twist it a little bit and then kind of finagle it to a position where you can get it out. I don't know which. Okay, that seemed to be the best way. Turn the sensor tip towards the intake. So here's the old one. Doesn't really even look all that bad. From everything that I've read, this is a common part to go bad, and if you let it go too long, it can cause issues in the long run. Another thing, this is also called, if you go to a part store, they won't call it a variable valve timing. No, sorry, they will call it a variable valve timing sensor is what they'll call it, not the camshaft position solenoid valve. I'm probably just going to take a little bit of this oil that's on here and rub it around this O-ring and push the new one right back in. Sit tight. All right, so we got the new one right back in the place of the old one. I noticed that to put it in, we had to turn it to where this was basically facing inside of here, and then once it dropped down past a certain point, you could turn it around and get it lined up with the bolt hole. We're going to go ahead and put our screw back in here, our bolt back in here, hand tight, and then we'll go ahead and put this guy back on with these 4 bolts hand tight as well. Before we move to bolt this guy on, now that this is bolted back in, let's go ahead and clip it in. It's a lot easier to get to whenever that's out of the way. So just clip her in. Sorry, I lost vision. Clip her in, go ahead and click that back down, give her a couple pulls, make sure it's not coming out. All right, let's go ahead and bolt this guy back on. All right, now we got it bolted back on. I don't think that this is necessary, but being that this is aluminum, I'm always worried about warping things. and you're not really torquing it down. Like I said, you're getting a good hand snug. You're not going to really crank on it, but I did a little star pattern to get it tight, just because, like I said, I'm weird about aluminum parts. What we'll do now is get our we'll get our cover back on, or get it in place, and we'll go through getting everything hooked back up. All right, with our cover resting, we can go ahead and peel this up right here. I'll try to do this with one hand. Go ahead and just pop this guy right here back on. You don't have to worry about moving the clip or anything like that. It just automatically snaps into place. I'm gonna set that right there for a second. And it snaps. Go ahead and give it a little tug. You don't have, like I said, you don't have to worry about pushing this clip. It'll just pop, lock right back in. We're gonna line up on the right side. It's a whole lot easier to get it in if you line it up on the right side first. You want to start kind of low. It's really kind of a two-handed deal, but got it. Go ahead and push your oil fill tube back into position. Once you get it situated, I got a little cockeyed right now. But go ahead and get it positioned back in. It's one of the things you can go ahead and take care of right off the rip, so you don't forget. Just go ahead and take it and pop it right back in, lock it down, and then from there you're going to hook all this stuff back up. You know, you're going to take this, and there's little notches and lines on the rubber boots. That'll lock in place. Come over here, work that on. Next thing you got to do is just tighten up the hose clamps and put your bolts in, and then you're in business. We'll move on to the next step. All right, we got everything back in. All of our hose clamps are good and tight on both sides, the 3 on the left, 2 on the right, and then we've got all 3 of the bolts that I told you about at the beginning. Those are all back in, hand snug. Let's move forward to what you should do afterwards. Now, you can take your time and let the computer, you know, make the adjustment on its own. It'll probably take, you know, anywhere from 20 to 50 to 60 miles for the computer to drop the code. Or you can take it to a shop, have them read it, tell them what you did, and ask them to clear it. Or if you've got one, clear it yourself. And then you'll be trucking after that. What I do want to talk to you about is something that I should have explained at the beginning of this video. So they say that this is a very common problem in the 2017s and newer. And they're saying, you know, roughly between 50 and 70 miles they'll start wearing out. I've got 55, right around 56,000 miles on mine. I've got a 2018. It's kind of hard to find in a parts store. I went to every parts store that I could around this area. It was an order part, and I looked on their websites, and it was out of stock on everybody's website. It was out of stock, and cannot deliver to home, cannot deliver to your local shop. So I called up the dealership, and they had 2 in stock. The AC Delco at all of the locations that carry AC Delco were running around like $21, $22. You know the dealership's gonna whack you over the head. This one was $56. But they're all the same part number. They're all the same exact solenoid. I mean, it doesn't really look like it's in bad shape, but it's hard to tell. But there's a bunch of screens. There's a bunch of screens through here, and I'm not exactly sure how it works. Pardon that. But anyhow, it's telling what it does is it tells the computer, and the computer goes and tells the cam actuator if it needs to advance the timing or retard the timing. It's really not, it was not a hard change out at all. It's a little bit intimidating. I've got a 100,000 mile warranty on this truck, but this is a wear and tear part, so it doesn't cover. So working on a truck that's still under warranty is a little scary, but I mean, all actuality, we've got 8 bolts to take out, all 10mm, and then you just loosen up those, you just loosen up your bands here. Without making this video, I probably could have had it done in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops. Very, very easy. So if you have any comments, please feel free to ask any questions. I'm not the best about answering any YouTube video questions, but something like this, I'll probably check it periodically. Hope y'all have a good day, and keep enjoying your Chevrolet or your GMC. Have a good one.